welcome to the latest in my video lessons. This time I'll be focusing briefly on Friar Lawrence in Romeo and Juliet. Before I crack on with that though, just a reminder, if you haven't done so already, to head over to Mr H Online, that's mrhonline.co.uk, where you'll find many more video lessons covering a range of topics. Okay, right, let's move on to the Friar. Interesting character in Romeo and Juliet. Kind of pivotal, central to the action and the narrative, and driving it forward and guiding it in a particular direction. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about him, but let's explore his character in a little bit more detail now. So who is he and what is his role? Okay, so some observations from me. He's a friend and confidant to both Romeo and Juliet. Obviously more so Romeo, but when Juliet's at the end of her tether, when her father is forcing her to marry Paris, when her mother's turned her back on her, and when the nurse finally turns her back on her, she comes to Friar Lawrence, demanding that he help her or she'll kill herself. So as well as being a Catholic holy man, this character is also an expert in the use of seemingly mystical potions and herbs, as is evident in his rather outlandish plot to reunite the two young newlyweds. He secretly marries Romeo and Juliet in hopes that the union might eventually bring peace to Verona. Good intentions, but in effect places them in grave danger. Hasn't thought them through so much, but they trust him. He also conceives the plan, outlandish as it is, which unsurprisingly fails, but with devastating consequences, to reunite the two lovers. He even abandons Juliet in the tomb at the end, leaving her to kill herself just to save himself instead. Despite all of this, he's presented as a wise, caring and benign character throughout. And interestingly, though he tells the truth at the end, he suffers no consequences himself that we are aware of. So, a couple of screens of quotations that I've selected for him. You may have some yourselves. You don't need to remember all of these. One or two of these is plenty. Especially if you can connect them to other themes. For this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancour to pure love. So this is his rationale for secretly marrying Romeo and Juliet, because although on the one hand he's of the opinion that they're rushing into things, they're being too impulsive, too impetuous, he's thinking, right, okay, maybe this will be the very thing that reunites the two families, brings an end to this ancient grudge. So he sets a hopeful tone here. He also passes on very sensible advice to Romeo. Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast. A bit ironic considering what he goes on to do then himself. But he's suggesting that Romeo slow down a little bit. Fast forward a little bit, and in the news, in reaction to the news that Romeo's murdered Tybalt, run to my study. By and by, God's will. Lucius Sassoria here reflects his panic tone, repetition, and he's begging Romeo to hide so he does not get caught before leaving for Mantua. Fast forward a little bit more, when Juliet comes to him. Oh, Juliet, I already know thy grief. You know, he's compassionate here. He's aware of how Juliet feels about having to marry Paris, and that also perhaps he is complicit in her possible bigamy if she does marry Paris. She's already married to Romeo, but only the friar knows this. A cold and drowsy humour, some adjectives here to show that Friar Lawrence is plotting for Juliet to take this sleeping potion. But then it all goes wrong. Get me an iron crow and bring it straight unto my cell. So he's using imperatives here, instructions, commands, when he realises the mistake he's made and he tries to go straight to the tomb. Because remember, his message hasn't got through to Romeo in Mantua. So Romeo has no idea of the friar's plans. He actually thinks that Juliet is in fact dead. Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of nuns. So this is him plotting even at the end to try and help Juliet escape the marriage to Paris. And even when the sleeping drug plan goes wrong, he's trying to get her out of the tomb, but he bottles it. He panics himself and he leaves her, where she's free to kill herself. You know, at any juncture he could have acted in a different manner, and this story would have had a very different outcome. Here untimely lay the noble Paris and true Romeo dead. So this is Friar Lawrence telling the people who are gathered of his plan and how this has unravelled most horrifically. So he's honest in the end, but again, as mentioned a few moments ago, what consequences? Maybe because he's a man of the cloth and he's above reproach, beyond suspicion. You know, I'm not saying he didn't act with the best of intentions, but he definitely acted with a lack of planning and forethought, really. Okay, so exam relevance, obviously being any question on the character of the friar himself, but also any question on Romeo, their relationship, or Juliet and his influence over her, any question on tension or drama, like the overly ambitious plot, how realistic was it, too many variables that could have gone wrong, could be linked to any question on themes of religion, friendship, family, etc. Okay, so a nice short one there for you. Reminder again, head on over to mrhonline.co.uk for plenty more of these. Okay, hope that was useful. Bye now.